The Last of Us 2, a hated success. Since the release of The Last of Us 2, people seem to have the opposite reviews compared to the first game, where players found themselves in an immersive experience regarding a post-apocalyptic world where we fell in love with the dynamic duo of Ellie and Joel. People find the biggest problem occurs within the first 2 hours of the game, where the horrible death of the wonderful character Joel Miller, who takes his last breath at the mercy of a revenge-filled Abby. Therefore, I'd like to get right into the video with reviewing Joel Miller's death. In Last of Us 1, we see how a smuggler struggling to survive in a fight-or-flight world delivers a 13-year-old girl across the country. On the start, he'll come across as a grumpy old man who can't wait to get rid of Ellie, who just appears to him as a waste of time. But as the game moves on, we see him change and develop as a character, such as when Joel and Ellie arrive at the dam near Jackson. They seem to have strengthened their relationship, almost to that of a father and daughter. We see this relationship grow later on in this part of the game when Ellie runs away and Joel and Tommy scatter to find her. We see Joel calm down Ellie, and I believe this is the first time we see emotion from Joel Miller. Since the death of his beloved daughter Sarah, he has seemed to be a quiet man who keeps to himself. But as he goes on, he opens up more and more as Ellie and Joel continue their journey. By the time they reach Salt Lake City, their bond is so strong that when Marlene tells Joel that Ellie will have to die in order for a cure to be made, Joel feels as though he will lose another daughter. Joel then proceeds to save Ellie and removes any chance of the cure being made. He chose one life over millions. And when they arrive back in Jackson, Joel makes the defining move by telling Ellie a complete and utter lie that will eventually lead to the downfall and destruction of their relationship. When The Last of Us 2 begins, it is after their relationship is in ruins, complete and utterly destroyed. In the trailer, we could kind of figure out that Ellie knew about the lie based on the way she told off Joel at the party when he tried to intervene with the dispute between Ellie and Seth. But some people could have also assumed it to be Ellie's traditional outburst of anger and stubbornness. Regardless, the once unbreakable bond between the two is now broken. So, fast forward to about an hour and a half into the game, where Joel has been shot in the knee by Abby, and Ellie and Dina are sky high in Eugene's weed farm. When Jesse finds Ellie and Dina and alerts them of a missing Joel and Tommy, the three of them run out looking for the two brothers. Unfortunately, by the time Ellie finds Joel, it's too late. Ellie's brought down and restrained just in time to see Abby deliver the final blow against Joel, while an unconscious Tommy lays nearby. And this is where we will stop for now. This is the most controversial part of the game, and nearly everyone who has played can agree. So I'd like to start off with the three main questions that people have for the game. First being, how can Joel be killed so ruthlessly without a fight? And secondly, why so early in the game was Joel Miller killed? And lastly, he was surviving forever. It's not like Joel to let his guard down like this. Why did Naughty Dog make him seem so weak? I think is the word for that. But weak is the opposite of Joel Miller. To anyone who has played the game, they see him as an icon of strength and hope for people who have all but lost all of that. So now I will try to answer all these questions in my own opinion. Joel Miller was relentless. He was a murderer, a smuggler, a thief, and most importantly, he was selfish. But he was also caring, smart, and basically he was a father. So first, I'll answer the question on why he died so early. Naughty Dog made the motive of The Last of Us 1 very clear. It was to deliver Ellie to the Fireflies and gain a cure to save the world. But in The Last of Us 2, there weren't as many direct and obvious storylines that could have been made into a game that would compare with the first. So Naughty Dog chose the death of Joel to be the motive. Therefore, Joel's death sets the table for so many more opportunities in the future of the game for Naughty Dog that we will discuss later. So anyways, now we will talk about why Joel died in such an unfitting manner. Joel was put down like a dog, plain and simple. There was no respect for the character that brought so much to the game, and as one of the biggest supporters for the game, I can officially say that I don't understand why they did this, and I hate that they did. The only logical explanation I have is that after his talk with Ellie the night before his death, he may have changed for the better. He may have seen helping Abby as a way to begin the path for redemption in the eyes of Ellie. Or maybe Joel living in Jackson with families all around him may have softened him and made him less wary and more helpful to strangers. Otherwise, I truly do not understand why it happened like this. After all these years and all these experiences, he should know not to trust people. And this is really all I have to say about Joel's death. I think I'll bring it up later in the review, but overall I believe it was necessary, but Naughty Dog could have and should have done better. I think we should expect more out of the game that was so great. Joel kills Abby's dad. Abby kills Joel. Tommy and Ellie go to kill Abby. Abby nearly kills Ellie, Tommy, and Dina. Ellie leaves her wonderful life with Dina to go kill Abby. Ellie nearly kills Abby. And what I just described to you was a cycle of revenge that took place within the Last of Us franchise. I could go into more depth with the Scars and Wolves or the Fireflies and Fedra. But anyways, the cycle of revenge is where the factions and different people groups of the Last of Us world just go after each other constantly until they are both destroyed. But the most important part of the game is when the cycle is broken. The cycle initially breaks when Abby rescues Yara and Lev from the Seraphites and allows them to be with her WLF friends. This breaks Abby's cycle of violence with the Scars. She's even referred to by Mel as Isaac's top Scar killer. But this change of heart in Abby is genuine and completely shifts the balance. When Abby decides to help the Seraphite siblings, this also encourages Mel and Owen to do the same. The same also happens with Ellie, when she decides not to kill Abby. Ellie had Abby in her hands and was prepared to kill her. She was finally going to win. The girl that had ruined Ellie's life was finally going to pay for her sins, and Ellie would get what she wanted. Revenge for Joel. But when Abby is given life, and Ellie finally realizes that if this cycle of revenge goes on in her life, it will eventually destroy her. Ellie's vision of Joel at the end shows that revenge won't solve the issue. Ellie just needed closure, and she looked for it in all the wrong places before she actually found it. The reason Naughty Dog introduces the cycle of revenge into The Last of Us 2 is to show us the consequences of living certain ways. Joel lived his life recklessly. He truly was a good man, but he was selfish, and he killed many people. In the world of The Last of Us, it is a sheep versus wolf, and when the wolves fight each other, it doesn't end well for anyone. In this world, you can't take anything personal. Death is normal. And as hard as that is to believe for some people, it's the sad truth.